So Michelle Brevlinger is not only our City of Lebanon Police Department Secretary, but she's also the fitness coordinator for the Lebanon Valley Family YMCA. And the city and the Y are in partnership. And this walk in particular, we've partnered with WellSpan Good Samaritan Hospital, and Tom Harlow is the president of our local hospital. So everybody wants to give a round of applause to this gentleman here for what they provide to our community. It's a true community hospital. They give back in so many ways, financially and just, healthy living and initiatives like that. So this is just one of the things that we'll be doing in the future, among a host of other things that we've done in the past. So tonight we'll be walking to the hospital and back. It's a total of 1 mile, and along that 1 mile trek, you'll learn about some history of Lebanon City and a few of the buildings along the way. And then the president will be giving a little speech on some healthy things involving the hospital. This was of course, primary garage for our operations until 1995-96, when the new garage at 10th and Oak was built. The Hazel Creek runs underneath this building, and there's a tunnel. It's 40 to 50 feet down, and a pipe that connects to the concrete channel that's located behind this building. And you'll see it as we walk up here. You can see the concrete channel that's known as the Hazel Dike. But the creek itself runs under this building before we had the Hazel Dike constructed. And that was started in the late 70s and finished around 1979 or 80. Our salt shed is located right next to this building. You'll see it as we walk past. It can hold 350 tons normally, but if we stack it up with a loader, we can get 450 tons. And we can go through that in a year's time if we have a really bad winter. That is known as the Shucker and Schindel Soap Factory. And it was purchased from the company W.H. Spahn in 1904. And a fire broke out in April of 1912, and it was contained to the second floor, just that portion. However, the business was basically destroyed and they didn't reopen then. It was converted into apartments a short time before 1990. So it was a manufacturing building way back in the day. Shucker and Schindel Soap. So we were known for soap manufacturing. In its 30s, soft drinks were sold on their health benefit. Can you believe that? When I read that, I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Like ginger ale? So when you think like ginger, it helps your stomach, like it kind of makes sense. But they actually had testimonials from doctors on their labeling and things. It's bizarre. So between 1907 and the early 19-teens, Crims purchased a bottling factory, and they moved the equipment to their new facility here at that pale yellow building at 406 South Broad. And they operated a grocery store nearby, and they had a relationship with Cherry Blossoms and Orange Crush. You may not remember Cherry Blossoms, but you probably all remember Orange Crush. But they launched their own line in the 1920s, and it was called Juicy Orange and Pennsylvania Dutch Birch. Everybody probably remembers that. It's in the yellow can. I think they still have it. And root beer. And they sold to malls in 1958. And then at that time, they just sold fountain syrups until the 1970s when they sold the company. So we had Juicy Orange and Pennsylvania Dutch Birch beer bottled and made right here in that building. That's awesome. This is a newer building. It was actually built 18 years ago, and the county was able to pay for this building through fees charged to people who are on probation. It's called a supervisor's fee. So it's a $50 fee that goes into a special fund, and that's what they used to purchase this building. So it wasn't, they didn't use taxpayers' dollars coming out of the general fund. So at this particular location was the home of, at 4th and High Streets right here, was the Good Samaritan Student Nurses Home. And nurses were actually trained here, and that program was actually discontinued in 1948, and the home was torn down in 1976. So I thought that was really interesting. So, and then if we just want to look at this beautiful hospital, and you just look at that. We had a fabulous architect It was originally started as a parish hospital of St. Luke's Church in 1889 at 711 Chestnut Street. They built the main hospital here between 1892 and 1894. And then they made renovations, many renovations over the years, 1924, 1944, 1956, and all the ones that we know of today. They expanded, they demolished adjacent properties to the facility, and they made it what it is today, which is a 170-bed acute care facility. And of course, Tom Harlow is our president of the new WellSpan Good Samaritan Hospital, and he's going to be talking about investing in personal wellness.
Yeah. Sure. Just a small fact people might not know, the architect for the South Wing was Bob Hoffman, who was previously hospital administrator. I learned that. That's pretty neat that he designed. So.
And he's a city resident, has been his whole life, and actually went to college with President Bush, the son. Yeah. And I call him the city's architect. He's a good friend, a very nice man.
I'm going to be very brief in comments, but I wanted to talk about something Melanie had mentioned. Well, two things. This is a little self-serving, but tomorrow's my 2-year anniversary here at Good Sam, so I'm thrilled to be here. It's really a great community. And Sherry, everybody asks my wife and I, how do you like Lebanon? It's like, we love Lebanon. What's there not to like? So it's really a great community. We're thrilled to be here, working with some great people, many of whom are here walking with us tonight and things. So I wanted to relate a story. It was about a year ago we were out at Gap. And WellSpan did a cooking demonstration for some of the teenagers in the youth advocacy program. And one of the things that stuck with me, and I related a story and it still sticks with me and bothers me quite a bit too, is we had a number of young teenagers who never had eaten tomatoes or blueberries at that demo. And we take these things for granted, and I think it's really, we have to realize within our communities that maybe we have advantages that some of our kids and other families don't have. So I think programs like this, hopefully working with the mayor and her group and everybody in the Y, that we can get out and really try to help people move to a little bit more healthier lifestyle, which kind of ties into, Melanie said, well, you have to take about 10 or 15 minutes to talk about something. I'm thinking, okay, what do I want to talk about? So I thought about investing in personal wellness as a way to reduce healthcare costs. And I'm not an expert in this, or certainly others in this room that are experts, but I just wanted to, and I'm not going to bore you with statistics and details, but everybody knows about the cost of healthcare continually going up. If you're paying premiums, if you're an employer, you know that the cost of healthcare, or coverage for healthcare, continues to rise each year. And there are a couple things that drive that. High cost of pharmaceuticals, some new treatment regimens with new biologics for like Hep C and things like that can be $40,000 to $50,000 per dose. So we have some pretty high pharmaceutical costs that we're dealing with in this country as well. Increased demand. It's not just hospitals and physicians making all the money, but there's increased demand for healthcare services. The Affordable Care Act that passed a number of years ago, Medicaid expansion, actually gave more individuals coverage. So with that coverage, people that may have put off seeking healthcare services are now seeking healthcare services. So we're seeing a bit of increase in demand. And again, the healthcare industry in the US alone is about $3 trillion a year. So it's not insignificant. It's about 18% of our gross domestic product. So it's a significant portion of what we do in this country. And you would think if we spent $3 trillion a year, we would have some really terrific health outcomes. That would be a wrong assumption. So let me share some things with you. When we look at the most industrialized nations in the world, we rank last or 11th of all of those in terms of health outcomes, such as access to care, which is a big issue in Lebanon County. A lot of patients don't have access to good quality health care. We see a lot of utilization in our emergency department, which is the wrong place for patients to get primary care. So access to care, we're last in the US. Last in healthcare equity. So again, when you look at the demographic of our community, not everybody has equal access to care. And that's not just here in Lebanon County, that's across the country as well. And then we're last in healthcare outcomes, which would be the quality of care and things like that. So you would think we'd be getting a lot of value for that $3 trillion. And we actually don't in this country. So, you know, what would be some of the things that we can do? And again, Melanie touched on a little bit about obesity. And, you know, that's a huge issue in the US. And so I thought I would focus on that a little bit. How can we help as individuals lower the cost of healthcare? So we can do some things on our own, such as walking tonight, going to the Y, participating in yoga in the park. For those that like to do yoga in the park, won't be there, sorry. That would not be a pretty sight, let me tell you, me doing yoga in the park, so, let alone doing yoga anywhere.
So if the president of the hospital does yoga,
Yes.
maybe
Yeah, it might cut down your participation. So anyway, so really it's about, I think, healthier lifestyle. So I wanted to just get some statistics, and I won't read all of these, but World Health Organization, the top 10 countries with the highest obesity rates in the world. There is one that is at almost 95%, and it is, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, it's an island in the Pacific, Nauru, N-A-U-R-U. 94.95% of the population of that island are obese. So Micronesia, so there's something in the Pacific Islands that lead to that. The US, 78.6%. So if you think about that, over 3/4 of our population are obese. So someone standing in front of you would qualify for that as well. So overweight or obese as BMI, we're our experts over.
So overweight is BMI of 25 or higher, obese is 30 or higher.
Yeah, I think I'm 24.9. So
In the
anyways.
healthy range.
Yeah, so, but we all could probably do better. So again, I think some of the programs that Melanie talked about, we certainly can take advantage of. That island nation, though, this is really, you think about it, it's not unusual for us in the hospital. In fact, Ginny, was that you and I rounded on a patient the other day? It was 95. I was with someone, it might have been Ginny, I'm not sure. 95, I'm sorry, he was 100, his wife was 95. So when we think of life expectancy in this country, that's pretty good. On this island nation, for males, it's about age 60, which the age 60 in the US is really the new 40, kind of, or the 40, you know what I mean? So a lot of things, but that country has the highest level of type 2 diabetes with more than 40% of the population. So let me just get back to the US a little bit. When we look in this country here, obesity-related diseases, 90% of type 2 diabetes is related to obesity. 80% of cardiovascular disease has a tie to obesity. Stroke, 80%, and then some forms of cancer, anywhere between 8 and 42%. So we can see that obesity is a huge issue, not just for our own health and being able to get around and do all of those things, but the contributory factors to chronic disease are really what drives a lot of the healthcare costs in this country. So clearly there's opportunities for us to improve our lifestyles, reduce the risks that we have from chronic disease. But how do we motivate others to do that? How do we motivate ourselves? So I'm going to throw some things out, and I'd love to hear what people think. So do we use incentives or punishments? Do we do a carrot or a stick? Is that a way to motivate people? What about risk-based health insurance? So if, I'll pick on the mayor, if she's a bad driver.
Yes.
Wow. That was an example, but if the mayor was a bad driver and had frequent accidents, she would pay higher auto insurance, right? But in healthcare, if someone is perfectly healthy, goes to the gym every day, doesn't smoke, doesn't drink, all of those things, they sometimes will pay the same health insurance as someone that maybe is overweight, has diabetes and things like that. So should we risk adjust health insurance? It's very controversial. Not everybody agrees with that. So let me in April, there was an article in the journal Circulation. I thought this was really interesting. They outlined 5 healthy behaviors or habits to extend life expectancy. So let me read the 5. I thought they were interesting. They're little things that we can all do to help improve our lifestyle and reduce risk. So the first one is consuming no more than 150 ml. I had to look up, that's 5 ounces of wine a day for women or 2 for men. So there's probably some of you in this room that could be a challenge for. I won't name names. So, someone in a pink hat in the back. Eating a healthy diet rich in fruit, vegetables, and whole grains, low in red meat, saturated fats. So Melanie talked about the proteins. Are we doing the right proteins? Engaging at least 30 minutes of moderate exercise per day. Doesn't seem like a lot. 30 minutes, half hour, we probably do that. My wife, I'm not even looking, could probably tell you I sit in front of the TV for at least 30 minutes doing nothing. What? So anyways, having a body mass index between 18.5 and 25. So again, trying to keep within that normal range. And the biggest thing is not smoking. So Bob Butler's here from Respiratory Therapy, and Bob could tell you a little bit about some of the challenges with people who have smoked all their lives and some of the conditions, COPD and stuff like that. And I'm sure you and your staff see that every day. So some really simple things we can do. The interesting statistic from the authors of this study, though, how many people, take a guess of the percentage of adults in the U.S. that are adopting those healthy lifestyles? Just guess. How many?
37.
25.
Someone read the article. I'm not going to call it, but it's very close. 8%.
Wow.
So if you think about the rest of that, if I do the math real quick, that's 92% who are not adopting healthy lifestyles. So when we talk about trying to control the cost of health care, I think it really starts with us. It's not something employers need to be, continue to pay and pay. It's really about how do we incentivize or encourage people to do it. It's a hard thing to do, but it's really about behavior change. So relatively simple solutions, but execution and implementation
Site
is
of the
extreme.
Lebanon County Christian Ministries. And as we walk down the sidewalk, you can get the full impact of the entire building because it takes up pretty much of this block. Lebanon County Christian Ministries actually began 30 years ago as a very small food bank. And area churches came together after the closing of the Bethlehem steel plant. And I had not known that before, so that was very interesting to me. A lot of those workers had no other skills than knowing how to fabricate nuts and bolts. So they could not feed their families. And now Lebanon County Christian Ministries, in addition to providing food to families, they provide clothing, the free noon meals, heating and water bill assistance, prescription aid, emergency shelter. They have the summer food programs, which we have, we feed the children at all of our playground programs in the summer. They have, they also run the federal government surplus program on a Wednesday where you can get the free cheese and those things. So, from what they started as, again, on a very small level 30 years ago and what they're doing today is amazing. And Troy Williams, the executive director, is awesome. He does a wonderful job for our community. So, definitely a very huge asset for the Lebanon community. So this is our last stop on the tour. And guess what this was originally? A grocery store. This is called the Handy Food Store, and also the owners, James and Helen Mutes, they operate King James Catering. It opened in 1965, and they reopened in March of '73 after Agnes went through because it totally flooded. And they remained open until the mid-1980s. The city clerk, Cheryl Gibson, she started working for the City of Lebanon as soon as she graduated from high school in 1981. She's going to kill me when I tell everyone how old she is. But she remembers that sometimes they'd run down here when they needed to get some things for, a special meeting or something like that, because she always has worked in the mayor's office. So she remembers definitely it being open in the mid-'80s. So, and then it was a dry cleaning operation, and now Quick Quality Press, which Quick Quality Press, they are an awesome printing establishment. They have fabulous prices. They can get it real quick, your order, and they are very great to work with. So there's several businesses in there, and again, some space that's available for lease if anyone's interested. But the owners lived in the front of where the pizza shop is. That was actually their home, and they ran the grocery store and the catering business back here.
I called my insurance carriers.
Everybody wave. We made it back. Everybody wave. There you go. Get away.